The collision at LaGuardia between two regional jets has been all over the news. I've got a video angle that nobody has seen before. Let's take a look at what happened that day, and then I'll show you the video.
47, Golf Bravo.
Okay, the first player is Endeavor 5047. This is a regional airline that is wholly owned by Delta Airlines. They're taxiing on Taxiway Bravo, and they are cleared Bravo to turn right on Mike and into lane 12 to park. They repeat back that clearance, and then there's another aircraft coming across Alpha Taxiway, and there's going to be a conflict here. We're well aware of that.
5047, LaGuardia on taxi, Bravo Mike to lane 12.
Bravo Mike, lane 12. So here's what happens in aviation. Whenever we get an instruction, we read it back word for word. We don't paraphrase it. It's word for word. You don't say Roger or Wilco or, yeah, I got it. You know, you read it back word for word, and they do that here. So good radio discipline on the part of Endeavor 5047. They've read it back. Now, what's going to be the problem here? Well, there's another Endeavor coming down Taxiway Alpha.
Bravo Mike, lane 12. 5155 ground 13 taxi Alpha Echo hold short of 4 at Mike give way to company.
Okay, that is a typical instruction. So the tower controller is looking and he sees that Endeavor 5155 is taxiing out to runway 13 on Taxiway Alpha. He knows he's just given instructions to Endeavor 5047 to come in Mike and all the way to the gate on lane 12. So he's going to give the taxi instruction now to 5155. He's going to tell him Alpha, Echo, and then hold short of runway 4, but first give way to company at Mike. All right. So why does he say company? All right. That's an abbreviated way to be much more concise and clear in your communication. Instead of giving the call sign, which I don't know what airplane has what call sign, he could have called out the type of aircraft that it was, but it's much easier to say company. When you look out and you see another Endeavor aircraft with the same, paint livery on it that you have, you know that that's a company aircraft coming in, and also it's at Mike. So all of this stuff is there, and Endeavor 5155 reads back the instruction word for word. So that's a contract, right? They've closed the loop on, yep, I got it. I hear my taxi instructions, and I'm going to give way. I'm going to stop and let them come through ahead of me. That's what they're agreeing to. Watch.
Alpha Echo and hold short of 4 at Mike give way to the company on 213.
All right, now Endeavor 5047 starts their turn onto Mike. And I'm going to show you a video here in a second that's really going to be very clear about what happened. All right, they're coming into Mike, and Endeavor 5155 is really hauling. They're really going fast. 5047 sees them, and they come to a stop. But 5155 was supposed to give way. They should have stopped way before they did. I don't know why they didn't. I'm going to give you an idea of why I think they didn't here in a second, but let me show you the perspective that I promised earlier. So this view, and big shout out to Gary B. Pilot, all right, our buddy down in Florida. Gary first broke this, so go check out Gary's video on it. He did a very nice job with this, but I watched his video on it, and here it comes. Here they come. They're approaching each other. Let me stop it right there. All right, now you see 5047 coming in on Mike, right? And they're supposed to have clear run all the way to their gate. 5155 is supposed to stop. That's the aircraft on the right. They're really going fast. They should be stopping right now. 5047 sees how quickly they're coming, and so they slam on the brakes. Now, here's the way it works in maritime law. When a ship at sea hits a ship at rest, it's always the ship at sea's fault. So in other words, whoever stops and establishes position, if the other one that's moving runs into them, it's their fault. Now, there's extenuating circumstances here because both of them were moving, but the other extenuating circumstance is this. One was they were both given very clear instruction. They both read back that clear instruction, which means they closed the loop and they accepted that mini contract. And as they did, one of them, that's 5155, was supposed to stop and give way to 5047. He doesn't do that. Let me keep running the video here, and you're going to see what happens and how fast fast he's going when they hit. All right, 5047 slams on the brakes. Right there, 5155 sees him. We'll be right back, but first, a quick word from our sponsor. A few days ago, 2 Delta jets bumped into each other while taxiing at LaGuardia. Nobody was hurt, just some dented wingtips, but it caused hours of delays and grounded dozens of passengers. And yet, depending on where you get your news, you might not have heard about it. That's exactly the kind of gap that Ground News helps you catch. Ground News is a news comparison platform that gathers and compares stories from over 50,000 sources around the world, so you never miss out on news. You can see coverage across the political spectrum, the factuality of outlets, and even financial ownership information. When this Delta incident happened, almost 400 sources reported on the story, with 22% from the left and 17% from the right. The majority came from the political center. Seeing that breakdown matters because every headline brings a different framing, and bias often lives in what's left out, not just what's said. With Ground News, you get instant situational awareness for the news, just like pilots need in the cockpit. And the best tool for that is the blind spot feed. It highlights stories that are covered by only one side of the political spectrum. It's how you spot what you're not seeing so you can get a balanced view. And right now, Ground News is offering my viewers 40% off their unlimited access Vantage plan. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description. That's ground.news/Captain Steeeve. Subscribe today and don't get caught flying blind. Right? They're almost nose to nose at this point. He sees him and he swerves a little bit at the last second. Let me keep running it, and boom, there's the collision. And you can see now that 5155 kind of, that right wing hits the cockpit of the 5047, and the whole airplane torques and spins a little bit like this. And he hits the brakes and comes to a full stop. But man, that's a sickening feeling right there. That's a really, really awful feeling. I had an experience years ago. This is probably 2002 timeframe, where I was taxiing out in a 767. It was early morning. The sun was just coming up at Boston's Logan Airport. And we were taxiing to runway 27 for a departure. A Delta airplane, a 737, had been put into a hold on the Delta 1 taxiway, which is a really short little angled taxiway, because they were on a ground hold for LaGuardia. That's where they were headed. The sun was rising right over the tail of that aircraft, and our right wing scraped the tail of that airplane, very similar to this. Although this right wing scrapes the cockpit of this aircraft. There was no instruction given on to give way or anything like that. We were just told to taxi to the end of the runway. Now, it's on us because we're the aircraft, or we're the ship at sea. We're the ship that's moving. The Delta aircraft that I ran into that day was stationary. They had this parking brake set. Now, the extenuating circumstances were the sun was rising right over the tail. It was difficult to see. Should, in an abundance of caution, we have come to a complete stop? Yep. Absolutely. Hindsight's always 20/20. But in this case, they both read back the instructions, and the one was told to give way to the other and simply didn't. So my conjecture on this is this. I think they were just kind of went heads down. It's really easy to become a mission hacker. These regional jets, they fly 4, 5, 6 legs a day sometime. They're constantly in perpetual motion, trying to get to the next runway, to take off, to get to the next place, to bring up the paperwork, to get back on the jet, to get another leg in. And, you get tired at the end of the day. It's very clear, even though it's nighttime, all of their lights are on, so they're very visible, and they read back all the instructions. But I think sometimes you just get kind of in that mission hacker mindset, and you put your head down and you're taxiing as fast as you can to get to the runway, and you've either forgotten about the instruction, or the one pilot that read back the instruction the pilot at the controls who's taxiing, always the captain, maybe didn't acknowledge it or didn't register it, or both of them go heads down, and a collision like this takes place. Now, fortunately, only one injury on this. A flight attendant on 5047 was hurt, but not seriously. But that's fortunate, because that wing went right through the cockpit and could have killed one or both of the pilots on 5047. So this is as serious a ground collision as I've ever seen. Most ground collisions are incidental. A tug pushes an airplane into something, or like my situation, we scraped the tail of an airplane with the tail of the end of our wing, and that's serious enough, but nobody was hurt in that situation. This will fall into the category of procedural unintentional non-compliance. That's PUNC. PUNC is different than PINC. PINC is procedural intentional non-compliance. If the one aircraft had said, forget that, I don't care about that clearance, I'm just going to run right into this guy, that's a much more serious incident than somebody that read back the instruction, had good intentions, they, for whatever reason, went heads down, and they didn't judge their distance from the other airplane. It wasn't intentional. It was unintentional, but there was still a collision. The NTSB will dig into this and take a look at it. But I'm going to run this perspective for you one more time and all the way through so you can see what happened. Here it comes. Stop. Oh, turn. No. Collision. Crap. Oof. They come to a full stop right there, and that's it. And that's awful. And so this has made national news all around the country. This is a very serious collision on the ground, and fortunately nobody was hurt in all of this. So I'm looking forward to the preliminary report coming out to see exactly how this thing got wrong. But I think the Endeavor 5155 simply just went heads down, and they were thinking about getting to the runway, and they forgot all about that other aircraft, and they weren't looking out. And the three lessons I learned early on when a young pilot was this: number one, listen up on the radios, okay? Number two, keep your head on a swivel. In other words, keep your head out of the cockpit, right? Don't go heads down. And one of the disciplines that we do, at least at my airline, is if one pilot is going to go down and do something in the computer, that pilot says to the other pilot, I'm going heads down. Are you okay with that? And I'll go, yeah, I'm fine with that. That's a clue to me to make sure my head's on a swivel and I'm looking out for any potential threats like this one. They had just literally seconds ago read back the potential threat. I don't know if they both went heads down or what, but clearly they didn't see the other airplane until the last second, and it's a shame. One final thought on this before I wrap it up. I know I'm going to get grief from my younger pilots on this, but there's no substitute for experience and judgment and wisdom. And that only comes over time. And we've hired in the industry so many young pilots now in the last 5 years. And, you know, they're great. They're qualified, but they don't have that depth of experience. And stuff like this keeps happening over and over and over again. And it's hard to avoid the fact that it's the younger pilots. Now, again, guys, I get it. I understand everybody's qualified. But there's got to be some slowdown here a little bit and consider we're getting rid of our most experienced pilots because they simply age out. Congress has a law, and I'm about to get fired in 2 weeks by Congress. They said when I turn 65, even though my eyesight is terrific, my health is in great shape, I'm the best I've ever been at what I do, they're just doing a one-size-fits-all policy. When you turn 65, you're out. That's wrong, right? We need to keep those more experienced pilots in so that they can mentor these younger pilots. And in a situation like this, when the one pilot goes heads down, the older pilot says to him, hey, pay attention. All right, I need you to be looking out for threats right now. I'll tell you when you can go heads down. That's how it ought to work. There ought to be a little bit of leadership exerted here. This one turned out that nobody was seriously hurt. That's the good news. But a couple of airplanes were damaged really bad, and a lot of people were inconvenienced. And fortunately, it wasn't any worse than it was. It could be, though. And that's what concerns me. Well, now you know. I'm Captain Steeve. Fly safe.